I seldom get excited for a Cloud and Clear like I'm excited today, not only because of what we're about to see that this company does, but also the demographic and the market that it serves. It's just so exciting. I can't wait to tell you all about it. But before we go too far, of course, meet my very special guest, Scott Lien, who's a co-founder and CEO of Granpad. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me on, Tony.
We've been working together for quite some time, and I'm so happy that we're finally able to get together. And as we were preparing for this, I started to research and look at your website, check out the Play Store, really get an understanding of the market and the audience that you serve. And you and I talked the other day, and I was just completely blown away about what you're doing. And I'm just so happy to share this story with the world because, not too many organizations make it a mission to serve the sort of 75 and over market specifically with a piece of technology. I mean, how remarkable is that?
Yeah, it's fun. That's all I can say. I mean, and I feel like it's the reason I was put on this earth to help this age group, what we lovingly call super seniors, those over the age of 75 or people with similar needs. And I think if we all think about some of the really neat, interesting, truly wise people in our lives, chances are there's some of the elderly people that we've known, whether that's a grandma or grandpa or aunt or uncle or neighbor. And, it makes sense. The older we get, the more life lessons we accumulate, that true wisdom. And even though COVID has been extremely hard on this age group and affected them, and we know in the U.S., out of the 600,000 people that approximately that have died, over 400,000 of those have been seniors. So it's had a huge impact on them.
Yeah.
But they've from an attitude and life has its ups and downs. They're just an amazing group of people and they're fun to work with.
Yeah. And, solving the question of how do you stay connected with these folks who are so wise and have so much to give to our children and to their grandchildren and to the broader parts of the community. And how do you stay connected? How do you make them feel like they're part of this new paradigm of the way that we connect, especially the way we were forced to connect through the last year and plus? I just can't wait to talk about all of that. But before we get too far down the road, because the passion for the product is clear. It came out when we were prepping for this, and my own passion definitely got ignited. I could talk about the product forever because I'm such a tech geek anyway. Like, I'm a gadget person, so this is perfect, right up my alley. But let's talk about Scott Lien, the entrepreneur, the co-founder. You didn't always do Granpad. I just love to hear your story and to share that with the audience as well.
Yeah, thank you. Scott, in a nutshell, I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and I think I learned about teamwork and hard work and dealing with ups and downs. When you're a farmer, you have to deal with weather, and you got to play the hand you're dealt. And if you have a drought, you got to deal with that. If you have a flood, you got to deal with that. But went off college, computer science, business double major. I feel that's important because I've always kind of had one leg on each side of the fence: deep technical experience, hardcore software engineering, but then a business view. How can we use technology to improve people's lives and create opportunities? And I do feel like everything I've done has prepared me for this, but it's always been around leveraging new technologies. So recently, I was CIO of Bank of America in Charlotte, North Carolina. One of the areas I was responsible for was mobile banking, and this was 15 years ago. And of course, it was just at the time when the iPhone was coming out. So we jumped on that, saw that as an opportunity. We were one of the first major banks that really leaned into that. And as a fellow geek, one of my proud moments was Steve Jobs held up our Bank of America mobile banking app at a WWDC,
Wow.
13, 14 years ago, and said, hey, mobile banking is on the iPhone, which, for us is so passe now. But at the time, remember, everybody's worried, security, am I going to actually pay a bill and transfer money on my phone? Really?
Yeah.
So, and that's really where I fell in love with the possibilities of mobile and what, having a supercomputer in your pocket that's always connected to this magical thing called the cloud, what that could do. And, ridden that wave. And so next for me, I worked in Silicon Valley. I was the head of mobile innovation at Intuit, fantastic Silicon Valley company, Mint, TurboTax, Quicken, QuickBooks, really great company. And there I was really lucky to be exposed to the Lien startup methodology. Eric came and frequently spoke to us. Scott Cook, who was the founder of Intuit, really drove that customer centricity that, he was a originator of the follow me home. Don't drag customers into some fake usability lab. You need to see the animal in the wild. You need to see people struggling trying to do their taxes and the shoebox method, with the small businesses, and see that scramble, the night before taxes are due, right? And that really stuck with me and was a wonderful experience. And it was during that time when my son and I started kind of percolating on this Granpad idea, which I'm happy to share more about that. But it was those learnings, and then we launched the company 7.5 years ago.
Hey, you work with your son. I work with my father. He's the chairman.
Cool. It's great. That's probably. I grew up on a farm working with my mom, dad, brothers, family. Like, you got to learn how to get along as a family, and everybody pitches in. And so, because people always say, like, "Oh, can you work with your dad or your son?" And it's about teamwork and collaboration.
I feel so fortunate that I got to do this with my dad. I get to do this with my dad because there's a lot of, I know a few peers in the ecosystem that, the father started something that like none of the children were interested in.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of sad, it's not that it, I'm definitely like Sada will be passed down to my children or anything like that. I don't have those preconceived notions, but it's great when it's there and the timing works and the passion is there, because it is tough. I'm sure there's moments where it's like, we just want to be family and we can't stop thinking or talking about work, but it's also, when it works, I think the best type of partnership that could exist, I think. So let's talk about Granpad. It's a hardware device, which is phenomenal for this demographic that, again, we all feel has been left behind. And I feel like, look, a lot of the user base, the super seniors aside, have been, I think, consumed by what mobile has become, right? In this sort of confusing, distracting, time-sucking way. And I think you told me when we were talking, iPhone's designed by 30-year-olds for 30-year-olds, and nobody really thinks about how to make it, usable and attractive for super seniors. So, like, what was the genesis of the idea, and what did the resulting sort of user experience thesis and the form factor thesis? Let's talk about how you came together in those collection of ideas.
Yeah, the genesis for the idea was my mom, who was 80 at the time. She was a brilliant lady, ran her own business, very busy, but she was frustrated by standard technology, her laptop, her phone. And given that she was busy and she was very confident, she's like, why is this stuff so hard? And my son and I would we lived in California, she lived in Iowa. We would spend all of our, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whenever we were visiting, we would spend a good chunk of the time fixing her tech, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, defragging her hard drive, getting rid of all the viruses, hooking up her printer, trying to get her phone to work, and programming contacts in it. But, and my mom also, like half of this age group, suffered from significant hearing loss. And so she, talking on whether it was a landline back in the day or a smartphone, was really difficult for her. Just the quality of the audio wasn't that good. Again, 8 years ago. So we would try to do Skype video calls. Well, again, because as she aged and got frustrated with technology, just Skype and, getting that all working again, video calling's gotten a lot easier in the last few years, and especially with COVID, they've simplified, but 8 years ago was hard.
Yeah.
And so we started to see weeks would go by where we did not have a good conversation because the technology was a barrier. So it was really my son. He was a freshman in college. Said, and he's a product designer. He developed his first iPhone app when he was 13.
Wow.
It was iPhone app number 2000 in the App Store,
Jeez.
and so he had an eye for design and user driven design. He said, "Dad, I think we can figure something out better for his grandma." So that was the genesis. I started looking at it from a business standpoint. So, wow, there's a big market here. I'm an idea guy. I have a spreadsheet of my 200-300 ideas. Most of them are dumb ideas, and I'll float them with friends, and I'll be like, Scott, nobody's going to buy that. That may be interesting to you. But this was one that universally everybody said, wow, that's a great idea. I'll buy one for my mom or dad. You need to go do this. The world needs this. So that was positive encouragement. We then set out typical lean startup, build, test, learn, build, test, learn. We said, we're going to create a prototype in 30 days of the basic features. We're going to, hack something together, kind of, Band-Aids and baling wire. And that's what we did. We put it in front of my neighbor, Hal and Bonnie Carlson, that were 90 at the time. And they were right there close to us.
Wow.
As soon as we had a prototype, we took it over to them. We did a video call with their great-grandchildren. We were in California. Their grandchildren were in Texas. And they loved it. When it came time, and we had exactly one kind of prototype that was working. When it came time to pack up and go home, we were putting the original Granpad version 1.0 in the bag. They said, no, you can't take that. We want that. We're going to call our grandchildren, every day on this, look at photos and all that. So we knew we were onto something. And then we just quickly kept iterating from there. And now we've reached 1.2 million total people, seniors, their families, and caregivers in 120 countries in a little over 7 years.
Let's talk about the hardware. Again, I'm a hardware geek, and I know you have a companion app, and that's how things get scaled out. Like, of course, I don't know, Google Jamboards, there's a physical Jamboard, but there's a companion app, right? So you want to give that flexibility, which makes a lot of sense. But I was really fascinated by the hardware. Let's talk about the hardware, then we'll get into the software. But do you want to talk about your hardware partner?
Yes, absolutely. So our hardware partner, and the evolution here is important. We started out trying to use off-the-shelf commodity parts, a standard Android tablet. That was kind of version 1.0, but we saw a lot of gaps. We saw that there was additional capabilities that this age group would benefit from. And the first was wireless inductive charging. We believe we're still the only tablet in the US right now that has wireless inductive charging. Most phones do now. That's just finally come. But we have a wireless inductive charger. It uses the Qi charging standard. You simply put the Granpad on the charger. And think about it. If I
could see, it sort of clicks.
It's actually, it just sits there. Very easy. They can kind of throw it in there. There's almost no way that you can screw it up. And it sits at the perfect angle. I think we've all done video calls with folks and you're looking at their ear, side of their head. This sits on the table. It's just a perfect angle and hands-free. So we designed the hardware and even lots of little things. And this is the user-driven design. And I always say, we didn't actually design this. Our group of grant advisors, super seniors that work for us, they designed it. We're just their hands that built it. So you know how a lot of cords will pull out? Like ours doesn't pull out. It's a really long cord. It's a 2-prong cord, not a 3-prong cord. A lot of grandmas live in houses that don't support 3-prong cords. Like all these little things that matter a lot. The packaging, which you can see on our website, we've got what we call senior-friendly packaging. I think we've all bought something at a store and you bring it home. It's got that hard plastic clamshell packaging.
I've cut myself so many times trying to open those packages that it's also super wasteful. You're like, what is it?
Yeah. And I used to work in retail. I used to work at Best Buy and Target years ago. And that was done for good intention. It was theft, loss prevention was what they called it. To keep the bad guys from stealing stuff. Well, think about it. If you're 80 or 90 and you have to use a knife, you said you've cut yourself, you cut your finger. If you're on blood thinner warfarin, which many elderly people are, I mean, it can be a catastrophic issue.
Yeah.
So we've got senior friendly packaging. We don't put those little ties and plastic on stuff. We can literally ship these. The average age of our customer is 85. We can ship this to them. They can easily open
The number
it.
of things I have to take off the typical piece of hardware too is just like, oh my god!
And it just ends up in the landfill.
Tape
right?
and this, and then this tie, and then this thing, and then this magnet is like unbelievable.
Right. So we don't do any of that. And then the hardware is it is an Android tablet deep down, but it's a custom built hardware using lots of proven technologies, like I talk about Qi charging standard. But Acer is our design partner for this. They're a great partner of Granpad. And so you can see things that the user interface is very different. We call this a linear scrollable interface. One of the things I'll point out to you right away is music. And so let's get to a good song here. Little John Denver, right? So
look, I can even notice, Scott, like the contrast color scheme. Like it's high contrast, big buttons, right?
That's
Easy
exactly
to
right.
navigate.
And front facing speakers that are super loud. There's a sound channel. So that's nice for music. It's nice for games. But if I'm doing telehealth, we have video calling. If I'm doing a video call with my son or grandson or with my doctor, and there's a picture of me and my mom, the video call is super loud. It's on the speakers, front-facing speakers. So all of those things add up. Oh, and one other innovation we came up with, we found that, and this is, we did tests. You take a standard tablet, put it in the box, and a senior say, please open this up, turn it on, and send me an email.
Yeah.
So far, we've found 0% of people over the age of 90 that could successfully do that. One of the stumbles on these types of devices is just pushing the on-off button. That's a very fine motor skill. You have to hold it. It doesn't give you a lot of feedback. So we invented auto on. You simply set it in the charger. It senses power, and then it turns on.
So cool. So cool. Do you have the instructions handy?
I'm sorry, Tony, I don't. It's on our website.
You showed me
3 parts. I should have. And it's 3 things. It's take it out of the box, set it on the charger, and open the flap. It automatically turns on. That's the instructions.
Oh my gosh, it is so easy. Just the number, like the hours. I mean, it's getting better, but the complexity of just setting up any new device, especially like a device that's sort of, richly connected in data and it's connected to the cloud, and multi steps of authentication and, two-step verification, all like, oh my gosh, 3 steps is like the panacea. So the fact that you've gone to those great lengths to understand the user and really like the attention to detail to that experience, I guess what you learned at Intuit is really kind of, it's demonstrated in how you've done that. But that's also pause to sort of appreciate that it is possible to build on Android, because of how the open source community works, right? I mean, it's just, you don't have to, back in the days, remember the years you've been around for technology, there was like 100 different varieties of OSs that you had to think about. There was like, all sorts of code bases, no ecosystem, hard to develop, hard to maintain. Now, and we have other clients who are in the hardware, robotics space, et cetera, like Embodied, Moxie, like they don't have to start from scratch. You can actually start on Android. And that's, thanks to Google, I think it's a huge leap forward for hardware companies like yours.
Right. Yeah, it is. The fact we were able to build on the genius of all those before us. So build on top of Android and build on top of all the APIs and cloud services available to us. And, when you look at a lot of people have done analysis, right, of startup companies, and 90% of startups fail in the first 3 years. There's many factors why, but timing is one of the key reasons. I mean, is the market ready for your solution?
Yeah.
And is the technology and capabilities there to support what you want to do? And, this one we got lucky on. You work hard and try to make your own luck, but timing for us 7.5 years ago was the perfect timing. because of the cloud services that were now available through Google Cloud, we were able to build this and operate at a higher level. And, when you're a startup, you got to use your resources very, very judiciously. You can't go buy, a whole bunch of servers. You can't go hire a bunch of system administrators and DBAs. You need to, focus on solving the business problem, which we were able to do with the cloud services provided.
But you were very early on GCP in a lot of ways. And you were there, I would say, as sort of definitely the early adopter phase where, still the market mostly dominated by AWS back then, still the largest cloud, AWS is, but back then it was like almost a default choice, but you made the bold move to kind of get into GCP early. And so what are the areas that you feel like the platform has evolved to help do the kinds of things that you wanted to introduce as capabilities to Granpad?
Yeah, we definitely were early, and when we first started, it was about 8 years ago, and we saw the vision and strategy where GCP was headed. That we're going to be able to operate at a higher level, like almost a business function level. And that was very appealing to me because, I shared with you, Tony, in my prior lives, like at Bank of America and so on, like I had responsibility for running data centers. Like, I had a data center catch on fire one time and dealing with HVAC and, fire suppression and all that stuff that you got to do when you're on your facilities. I said, we can't take that on. We want to solve the end user, the business problem of serving seniors. So that was the impetus, and it was early days, but we believed in the vision, and how we've seen it evolve is, there's things at like a technical level, just like expanding the capabilities of MySQL, like MySQL version, whatever it was 8 years ago. There were some limits there, but what's happened is now it's grown, and of course, Google has grown and created capabilities faster than we've grown. We've grown super fast, but like 6 years ago, like they were just barely ahead of us. 5 years ago, they were ahead of us quite a bit. Now they're well ahead, and we're not bumping up against any limits or capacities or issues. And what we love is Sada, Google comes to us and go, "Hey, did you know we now have this new capability? Click, click," and those things are available. And then other real features like, me being the CEO and the product vision idea guy, I would go, "Oh man, we have this idea. Like, I'd like to do this." And one of them was we'd like to automatically categorize pictures. So if somebody put pictures of the dogs and cats, it could recognize those and sort them into here's the pictures of the dogs and the cats. And I had that idea, and my engineers, my chief architects, he's like, "Oh yeah, Google's got an API. That's easy to do." And they literally could prototype it up. And because we were in that ecosystem, some of those things were extraordinarily easy to do. And then the other one is, again, 8 years ago, just stability, scalability, and availability. There'd be a few wobbles. It's, knock wood. We're counting on you guys, Google, to not, scale and provide that level of global availability.
Right.
Because, again, we're serving users in 120 countries. I don't have to worry about which data center things are worrying in. That auto scaling, auto caching around the world is essential. So there's just so many benefits.
You're supporting the cloud services that power the device and the app, right? And you have tons of users on the app all around the world. I think it's 120 countries, something like that.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're supporting the companion app and then everything that's on the Granpad tablet. And everything is completely cached and stored in the cloud. So if grandma, accidentally loses her Granpad, they call us, we send a new one. Everything is cached, synced to the cloud. She's up and running. I think we've all, when we go buy a new smartphone, it's supposed to be easy to transfer. It never seems to be that easy. You spend a whole day trying to move and get passwords set up. We don't have any of that nonsense. And so the cloud is the cache, the database of record for everything.
So tell me about the model a little bit, because we talked about it and I thought it was really novel. I mean, they all come data connected because one of the reasons is like, you can't control the local environment, the Wi-Fi, the speed of the Wi-Fi, all that. Like residential internet is troublesome to begin with if you do know what you're doing, let alone if you're living in some, wherever you live, right?
That's right. So we call it, there's SaaS, software as a service. We call it Granpad GaaS, Granpad as a service. So it's the hardware, the software, and the service that you need. The service includes all the apps, music, 7x24 customer care. So there's no extra like, oh, you want to call us at night, we're going to charge you extra. None of that.
Yeah.
But a key piece that you're pointing to is the 4G LTE cellular data is included. And there's no measuring of gigabytes or megabytes, or you can only send 100 text messages. My mom, all she would know is that would scare her, and she would just not use it. She'd be like, exactly. I don't want any overages. So ours is one flat monthly pricing. You can pay annually or you can pay monthly, and it's completely a service. Everything you need, because as you point out, it's more than it's actually over 60% of this age group does not have access to any type of broadband internet.
Yeah.
They either don't have internet access in their home or the facility, or they don't have the password, or it's extraordinarily slow. The Wi-Fi router's down in the basement and it doesn't work up in mom's bedroom. So what we found is by including the 4G LTE there, it simplifies their life. It's cheaper for everybody. I mean, the average internet now price across the U.S. is $55 a month.
Yeah, if they have the Granpad, they don't need another internet. They don't even need another internet provider in most cases.
That's right. And then when they walk out the door and they're going to church or the pharmacist or their doctor, they take Granpad with, just like their phone. So our price, we've got different pricing models, but our best value is $58 a month. So $58 a month, that includes the hardware, the software, the data. I don't know about you, but my cell phone bill is more than $58 a month.
For sure.
But the biggest real differentiator with us is 7x24 customer care. They can press the help button on their Granpad 24 hours a day, and a very friendly for our customers in the U.S. It's all U.S. based. And for our customers in UK and Ireland, they're going to speak to a local person there that has their accent, not our accent. And we answer the phone within seconds. A friendly person. We don't have any of that press one for this, two for that. We don't even own a VRU. We'll never have one. How can I help? And we take care of their problem.
Amazing. You know what? Even as a very capable tech executive, whatever person, like I have LTE on my iPad when I travel because I don't want to worry about it. I just want to pick it up and go. So even for advanced users, just stopping and connecting to it's just, I mean, the adoption rates you must see are off the chart from what it sounds like, because you've removed every barrier to adoption.
Yeah, we do. And for all of us young people, our phone or our laptop, it's a tool that enables us to do our job or stay connected. But for these folks, it's their lifeline to the outside world. And so that connectivity always being there is essential.
How have you seen it? Again, I read some of the reviews and stuff, but especially through the pandemic, but also, again, we're talking about millions of folks who feel relatively left behind by technology and also by, I think, human connection. Tell me about some of the features you've added to help them not only feel more connected, but more, engaged, more at peace, more content with their connection with the world?
Yeah. I'll highlight a couple. Some things that we've had for a while. I showed you briefly the music, but I'll show you one that, again, it's such a simple thing. We always our saying that hangs on the wall of our office from Leonardo da Vinci is simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. So seniors love to know their weather. So here's grandpa's weather, but they want to see the weather of their family. So my daughter, Angel, and let's see, who is this? My son, Scott. So their weather local where they live, but then it also has the local time. So Scott lives in Central Daylight Time. So seniors that hey, is it an okay time to call my son? He lives, I don't know the time. So that's one. And that makes people feel close to each other. Oh, there's a storm where my son lives. But I'll highlight another one for you that we just rolled out, and it's called the Moods app. And so the Moods app is something, again, very simple, but there's sadly is a ton of anxiety and depression with this age group, and COVID has just exacerbated that. So this is a calming, relaxing app that, visualizations that people can use to bring calm, and it might be the rain, right? And so we just rolled this out a few weeks ago, and we weren't sure. Our seniors, our grand advisors that we design everything, they were very excited about this. I wasn't sure, but they drive. We rolled it out, and it's been a home run, absolute home run. And people calling us and going, I just use that for calming and meditation. And again, they didn't have access to these tools. We have our smartphone, and we know we can go find these things. We just made it accessible to them and in a way that was really easily digestible. One lady who called us said, my heart was racing, my blood pressure was going through the roof. I use this just to calm, and I feel at peace now. So we're always looking for things like that are going to help improve the quality of life for the seniors we serve.
Yeah, and because it's a custom build, that's also updatable sort of over the air.
It is.
It feels like a Tesla, by the way. It's like that's not
I'll admit I'm on my second Model S, so I get a lot of inspiration from Lien. Yes.
It's true. It's LTE connected, gets better over time.
Right.
You can't mess it up.
Everything's included, so there's not a bunch of options, and you don't have to bolt on this or that. Yeah, and I'll tell you a funny story on that, Tony, that tells you how my brain works in this simplicity. So, given that I've been driving Teslas for a long time, I was on a business trip to the East Coast. Got out. I was late for this meeting. Hopped out of my rental car that I'd gotten at LaGuardia or wherever I was. Went into my meeting. I was in there all day. I came back at the end of the day. I said, who's the bozo that left their car running out here? Oh, crap. That was me. My car was almost out of gas. Luckily, no one had stolen it. Because my model is when you get out of the car and walk away, the car turns off and the door's locked. Of course it would. Why wouldn't it?
I've had a couple. I got a Tesla very early, and I remember borrowing my dad's car. Same thing. I just say, oh, you have to turn it off? Like, that's weird.
Right. Why would you?
It's weird. Like, it knows you're leaving, right? But no, my wife has a Model X now, and it's just like every time I get in there, I'm like, only a couple of cars I've ever owned that I miss, and I miss the Tesla experience. And this is sort of like the Tesla version of a tablet for seniors. Everything's included. It updates. It's also locked down, right? Which you said, deliberately not having the Play Store. It's just a blessing. And part of the reason you get these devices, and similarly why I gave my kids Chromebooks, for home or whatever, I don't want to be in the tech support business.
Right.
Like, it is, especially if somebody in your family knows you're technical, or, under 60, you're automatically like tech support. I don't want to be tech support. So I can only imagine like the number of calls that the family members don't have to get, or the visits they don't have to make just to remind grandma how to log into something.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we call it the circle of trust. So everyone is connected with the senior who is invited into the private circle of trust. But the bad guys aren't invited. The scammers, spammers aren't invited. So we put the senior at the center, and we invite their family, friends, and caregivers. Doctors, nurses, could be, their pastor. But those are the only people that are able to call, video call, or email. So we have zero spam, zero.
So good.
Because the only people that can send that are on the safe list. When this thing rings, the seniors know it's someone that I trust, someone I love is calling me. And sadly, and this is a really important point, sadly, pre-COVID, the amount of scammers, spammers, fraudsters that were going after seniors was bad. With COVID, now it's catastrophic. It's extraordinarily bad because the seniors are more isolated. They're more vulnerable. and they're, in many cases, they're lonely. And so when the phone rings and there's a nice person on the phone that's very engaging and warm, and then they use social engineering, they're out looking at Facebook going, oh yeah, I went to college with your daughter at UCLA. And oh yeah, we're all friends. And actually your daughter asked me to call you. And then, so the social engineering, the next thing you know, they're stealing money, they're stealing their identity, they're exploiting these people. And it is a serious, serious issue. And so that's why we've created a walled garden. The seniors can increase their engagement with those they trust and keep the bad guys out.
No, that's a great point. It is remarkable, like the amount of targeting that's done in this community. And it does come from the phone. Facebook is a terrible destination where people are quite vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And even email. I mean, this is sort of a circle of trust concept is remarkable. I mean, it seems like you've thought of everything to make it safe, increase adoption. That's really quite well thought out. But you've been doing this for a while now, so I expect some of those things, came over time. Yep. Versus some of the things were obviously just core design principles. But now that you're going international, I mean, the app has been international, 120 countries, but now you're making the device available in other sort of English-speaking countries. But what do you think? What's the limit for this concept? How big can this get? How big are your ambitions? What does the future hold for Granpad?
Yeah, well, we're on the path to make sure that every senior around the world is able to live what we call live grand, live their best life and be connected, not be lonely and isolated. And so in the U.S., there's over 32 million seniors who need our help right now. We've just reached a fraction of that. Worldwide, it's more than 300 million and all their family around them. So, we're very focused on reaching all of those people and growing. We'll continue to add capabilities, but not too many, right?
Right.
I think, sadly, some tech companies have taken the approach of let's just keep adding features, and overcomplicating things, right? The smartphone I owned 10 years ago was frankly easier to use and I think better than the one I have now, right? And so we don't need to keep adding features. I think we should focus on creating a delightful customer experience and really understanding our customers' needs and evolving with them. And that's what we intend to do. Now, a big area of expansion for us over the last 2 years has been into the healthcare space. So our business is split almost 50-50, both in terms of subscribers and revenue. 50% direct to consumer, B2C. And generally, it's the 50-year-old daughter buying for 80-year-old mother. And that's where we started. That's a growing and vibrant business, and we love that. And we market the tablet in the US, Ireland, and the UK, and we're looking at other select European and Asian countries now. Our B2B business is focused in the healthcare space. And there where healthcare, payers, providers, senior care companies integrate Granpad into their business to improve the quality of life, reduce the total cost of healthcare for the seniors they serve. So as an example, we're the preferred telehealth provider for the National PACE Association, and PACE stands for Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. It's a wonderful public-private partnership that's focused on what are called dual eligible people. These are generally folks that are low income and have a lot of healthcare needs. These are people that would generally fall through the cracks otherwise and really suffer and struggle. But the PACE program, it's all across the U.S., has integrated Granpad so they're able to deliver care, remote care, virtual care in a very cost-effective way and actually increase their amount of engagement with their seniors, right? And so we're honored to be part of that, and that's been a huge area of expansion for us. So we've created additional capabilities there, things like the ability to record with consent, the video call. That can then be put in the healthcare record. The ability to have what's called real-time texting. So if the senior you're doing a video call has hearing impairments, you can put the words right up on the screen. doing it in multiple languages. We support now 9 different languages. So people in the Hispanic community, the Chinese community, we have Granpad in Albanian. And so we can support all those different segments of the population and do it in a way that's really improves the health and self-confidence of the senior and lowers the healthcare costs. I mean, we've got limited resources and healthcare costs are going through the roof. So anything we can do to help in that is where we're focused.
We have a huge number of customers who are healthcare providers. I'm just thinking about opportunities to make some introductions because I think the trends that were accelerated, I mean, telehealth has been around for a long time, but it was seen as a fringe thing, like, oh, you're in the middle of nowhere in the jungle, telehealth, right? No, it's like actually it's very inefficient the way things are done, especially for seniors. It's hard to always get to the doctor. You spend 3 hours of effort and commute and waiting to see the doctor for 5 or 10 minutes because people couldn't see the doctor. They were forced to these usually consumer tools sprung up quite rapidly in the beginning. People using anything, FaceTime, whatever, right? To telehealth visits. But the point is they liked it. They found it efficient. They found that it worked 80% of the time just as well as an in-person visit. So I could see that being a tremendous channel of growth. Now that I think those new habits aren't going to go away, I think telehealth has been literally accelerated to sort of the mainstream. I could see this Granpad product being a key part of the integration strategy into the EMR and other systems, so you could do that at scale. That's super interesting. And then, of course, the consumer market. I think it's a matter of all of us. I wish this device was here when my grandma was alive. I think we always struggled to connect with her, remotely. I think it's just a tremendous product that adds so much value and joy to, again, a population that has not always being addressed. I mean, it's being addressed by the healthcare community because there's so much, revenue there, but really for everyone else, technology, all the cool new stuff, nobody thinks about the community that you're serving. So I want to applaud you for that because it must feel great to do something that's obviously a business for profit, but it's also is mission driven, like Granpad has become.
Yeah, it does. One of my other sayings is, do what you love, and then you never have to work a day in your life. And that's how we feel. That's the spirit we try to create within our company. We're over 200 employees, and I'll give it, our first interview question is, tell me about a super senior, someone over the age of 75 who's been important in your life. If the person can't think of anyone, it's a pretty short interview. The people we hire are the ones who go, my grandma was my best friend when I was in high school. I was having some struggles and my grandma was there and she helped me through a tough time and they'll cry and so on. And those are the people that really have a passion for helping these awesome people.
Such a great cause. It's such an honor to be able to help you in the little ways that we are with Google Cloud Technology and through our partnership. And I wish you tons of success. We're here for you every step of the way. We want to be part of the story. Nothing makes us happier than serving customers that are mission driven and serving an amazing part of the population, doing innovative things. I really thank you so much for being my guest and sharing the story. And now hopefully a bunch more people will know about Granpad. And I look forward to working very closely with you for years to come, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, for having me on. And thank you for all you and your team do. You've been great partners. I would just close with whoever sees this, my ask of everyone is call, or even better, video call a super senior in your life. Grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, neighbor. It'll mean the world to them. We're all busy, but we all have time when we're in the car or walking through the airport or out for a walk. It just takes a second. Even if it's a short call, just let them know you're thinking about them. There's a lot of seniors out there who are very lonely. I just started calling my uncle that I hadn't talked to in a long time. He's 90. I can't believe the difference it makes in his life.
It's a great note to end on. I remember my grandma in her 80s, even if it was a 2-minute call, she just made her so happy to hear. So great reminder for all of us to be good brothers and grandchildren children and uncles or whatever, like good nephews and nieces, call a super senior. Great way to end the call on this recording as well. Thank you, Scott. Great to connect with you. Great to share the story. Thanks for being a customer.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @CloudandClear and our website, sada.com. Be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app.